Hey, it's Colin Meeks, and welcome to another edition of the Financial Advocate podcast. Along the lines of us always trying to bring value to our listeners, somebody that we haven't had on the show before is, and our guest today is really going to be, I think you're really going to like him. We haven't talked about anything real estate related in a pretty long time, and I don't know, over 60 some episodes. I'm really surprised at that. So I wanted to bring somebody on that could talk to us a little bit about what you go through when you buy a house, when you sell a house, some things you should look for, and all those good things. I met Mike probably about 6 years ago when my wife and I were selling our first house in Perry Hall, Maryland. And we'd interviewed a couple of different agents at that time. And, my wife saw his sign in one of the other houses in our neighborhood, and she called him up and he came over, and he was like, within like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, he's like, he gave us information that no other agent had given us. He said, this house over here, I sold this one, 2 months ago for this, and square footage and different features. And he really just blew our socks off with all of his knowledge that he prepared for and came into that meeting with. So since then, over the years, I think we've done anywhere from between 5 and 10 real estate transactions with him, and my family has, and he's just consistently come through for us in a lot of different ways. So I thought I'd get him on here today, pick his brain, let him talk real estate for a little while. So Mike, how was that introduction?
Man, that was great. I wasn't expecting to get a testimonial today, but I'll take it. I love it. So.
Yeah. So let's start right now. Like I said, we're in Baltimore, Maryland. I know a lot of folks listening to this are different real estate markets across the country, but it is in November, so it's not the best time of the year for real estate. But how are things going right now in our market right now?
So it's actually we're kind of getting into a correction territory. I think I use that word cautiously. But we've kind of had the part where we've gotten to the peak where the prices have kind of gotten back to where they were in 07, 08. The peak is back a little bit higher, but what's happened is interest rates have started to slowly creep up. So as they've started creeping up, we've seen a little bit of pushback. And interest rates historically are still very, very good right now, but people have been kind of preconditioned to these like absurdly low, like 3% rates. And I think that, they don't always look through the forest, They just see the tree in front. So, 3%, and that's the thing. If they get to 6 right now, they're about 5, 5.25. And if they get to 6, the affordability doubles from 3 to 6. And that's, it's no brainer to think about that. But it's a huge impact. So what we're starting to see first is the bigger homes slow down first, because the people with money start to pull back because they're not going to pay as much.
What price range are we looking at there?
I think in this market, and you got to remember, real estate is hyper local. It's not even like statewide, it's not countywide, citywide, municipality-wide. It's really like neighborhood by neighborhood. So, I would tell people who are listening to this, find somebody if you need somebody in your local market that really knows your market, because they can give you the guidance that you need for that. But I'm seeing in this particular market, everything over about $550,000 is really kind of stagnating right now. We had a really good spring. It was crazy, multiple offers, and then it just all kind of stopped. So I think where we're at right now is like a lot of people are in denial that we've actually had the correction, and I don't think it's going to be as bad as we've seen with like the double-digit huge losses. I think it'll be somewhere around a 7 to maybe 10% correction. Okay. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not bad.
Right.
And there'll be opportunities for people to take advantage of that too.
So good news is if you're buying something, you might be able to pick up a better deal now, but if you're having to sell something to get that, it sort of equals things out. And people, in general, very few people buy houses, at least that I've dealt with, in cash, so you're always buying per payment. So it is it's a function of that interest rate and the price you can get on the house and what you can sell your house for. And that's where you come in. It's good to have, what kind of analysis do you do for folks?
So we actually will, take the property. I try to get people to fill out a quick form on my website. I'm giving you a little shameless plug here.
We'll get it
iSellGames.com. But, on there, I try to get them to fill out the information. That pretty much gives me a lot of what I need. Then I'll do some overall market research. When I pull comps, I usually go in about a mile radius. The one thing I don't do is go to Zillow. I don't go online and get some automated estimate from a computer that's never been in. So we go out in about a mile radius and we try to look for like properties first. Okay. So if it's a colonial, all the bedrooms upstairs, we're trying to look just for colonials first. And then we're going to try to match up that square foot to get as close to that as possible. Then you start looking at the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, with the square foot, and then the amenities come into play. What I see a lot is people don't realize, like, they might have paid $50,000 to put on a ridiculous deck and outdoor kitchen or something like that at their house, and they think, well, when I sell my house, I'm going to get my $50,000 back.
That worked that way, right?
No, it does not. Like, an appraiser is going to give you 10 or 15 grand for a deck and maybe another 5 for an outdoor kitchen. So, I mean, when you do these kind of crazy improvements to your house, I think you just have to realize that you're doing them for yourself.
Right.
You're not really doing them for other people.
Yeah, like a pool. I mean, that's
like hit or miss.
Right.
People love pools or not, but I would caution people on over improving their home. My own particular house, it is a nice big house, but it's boring. It's beige. It's like very neutral. So if I want to sell it tomorrow, I will have no problem putting the sign up front and I'm ready to go.
Right.
So.
I think it's interesting you mentioned that before, like when you go to a house and you go that mile radius out. You sold a rental property for me last year, and it is like literally right on the line of a city and a county.
Yep.
And city equals bad and county was good, and it was like I was in my mind, I'm like, all right, I could get county money, but when you came in, you were like, no, because you might as well not even go 2 feet that way because you're in a completely different municipality, new taxes, new water bill, everything, and it was like really eye-opening to me to
It's all driven like by the schools and taxes. I mean, taxes, at least in Baltimore City, are usually like 1.5 times higher than what the county is.
Right.
But you don't necessarily get the same services either. So a lot of people aren't going to be searching for the property because it wasn't right there. But like I said, every market's completely different. So you just really got to know what you're doing. One thing I have seen a lot of recently is all these HGTV investors.
Right, flippers.
They got some money, mom passed away, we got 100 grand, whatever, life insurance, and we're going to go flip a house,
Or flip mom's house.
Yeah, or flip mom or whatever. And people who don't do this for a living, they make it look very easy on TV. But I haven't personally bought a house to flip in about 2.5 years because the buys are not there. These people are paying 30 or 40 grand more than what I would pay for the same house, because that's the profit.
Yep.
And they don't understand. They get into it, and then one sewer line mess up is 10 grand, and now you lost money.
Sure.
So I don't buy stuff to lose money.
Yeah.
I know you don't either.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, is not to go backwards. But let me take a minute here and talk, sort of flip it around on the downsizing of things, because a lot of our clients are older and they're retiring, and I just met with a lady this morning who she lives on the 3rd floor of a condo. She's 78 years old, no elevator. She's talking to me about moving into a retirement community. 30 years ago when she bought the place, she could make it up 3 flights of steps, no problem.
Sure.
And a lot of folks are, doing this downsizing where, maybe not from a condo, but from a larger house to retirement community or to an apartment or whatever. What kind of things pay off the best? Like when somebody goes, if you were to go into somebody's house that's lived there for 30 or 40 years and they really haven't done a whole lot, what would you say? I mean, how do you handle that?
Well, I tell you, this is actually really cool. There's with all this technology out there, there's some really neat companies out there. There's a company here I just met last week at a big mastermind we do here with the top 500 agents in their whole region. And basically what they do is they're a general contractor. And they will come into the house, they will actually do the repairs for the people, and they will not charge them any money for it up front at all. The stipulations are it has to be at least $15,000, I think. They have to list it within 5 days of the project being completed. But it doesn't matter if that house takes 8 months, 9 months to sell. They're basically going to take the money out of the proceeds, so that takes the problem out of people. I don't have the money right in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
Really cool, and they only take referrals right from real estate agents, so I'll give you that information later.
Oh, we can post it for the show notes.
Yeah, we can post it here too.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a brand new concept that really started coming out. But anyway, so what I recommend, number one, I call an agent. Again, an agent who you vet yourself. I can't stress that enough. Get online, check them out. Do they have a website? Do they have client testimonial videos? Can you actually find them? Can you see anything about them? And then, try to check them out a little bit, but listen to what they say. Kitchens are usually one of the big selling points, so updating a kitchen, but that can be one of the more expensive costs to rehab. Flooring and paint are the 2 most inexpensive things you can do to a house to really change it, because what happens is when you paint, you get that fresh paint smell, and new carpet or new flooring gets a new flooring smell, so it smells like a new house. So between doing that, maybe cleaning out the air vents, it'll really give it that feel and smell. And then the neutral is what you want. Right now, we kind of shifted away from the tans to the grays. Tans are kind of coming back now. I've seen that a little bit more, like very light. But neutral's best, neutral's key, and usually when I meet with older people who've been in the house a long time, they have some nice antique looking things, some wallpaper. That's like a big no, you know. So like that's the good stuff that HGTV is good for, is watching the shows on getting ideas and stuff. But flooring, paint, and then bathrooms actually too. Bathrooms are a big thing, especially if they're very outdated. People think bathroom renovations have to be like $27,000. They do not. You can do a bathroom for $3,000 or $4,000 if you find the right contractors that can do it. And usually if you find a decent agent, I mean, they're going to have resources, you know?
I mean, the key there is don't just go start to do, because a lot of times people will sort of patch it together and they might put in new carpet and paint and say, oh, I'm going to, you know.
Or they put granite on cabinets that are 50 years old that look absolutely horrible. And it's like, why did you do that? You know, you should just rip the cabinets out, put in new cabinets, and laminate counters will look better than what you had.
Yeah.
For the same price, you know?
That is crazy. And that's where, again, that's where an agent really comes in, because I mentioned at the beginning with our house, when we met you the first time, I mean, you gave us a number that we were going to list for, which was like $40,000 or $50,000 higher than any other agent told us, and we thought you were out of your mind. And God darn it,
a lot of people do.
Well, that's for other reasons, but no. But I mean, and we were just like, you know, you did it on such a, you know, based on what was in that house and what we could do to improve it. And we did it, and it wasn't really a whole lot to do, but you know, and really it all just came. So I mean, you really have to find a local agent, I think, that knows what they're up to.
Well, and it is, and look, it's all basic economics. It's like Econ 101 in college, right? You got supply, you got demand, and that's what people got caught up in this spring market, where we had so much demand and not enough supply. So we started having crazy, you know, multiple contracts, escalation.
You were loving that, weren't you?
Oh, it was great, but it's great, but it's not, because then you still got to understand, like, you still got the check man coming, which is the appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you can accept the contract for 20 grand more than you think, but if he comes in and underappraises it, now you got another problem on your hands.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and knowing that market, but knowing the supply and demand is key too. Like your particular neighborhood, extremely hot where you guys were. Everybody went to elementary school. Not all agents know that because they're not right from that local market. So knowing that, you can kind of, you know, capitalize on it.
And we tell families this all the time with our financial planning practice. You know, we specialize in basically two and a half niches, and you know, we do a lot of planning in those areas. And if you come to us for one area that's not in that, we'll send you somewhere else because we just aren't good enough at it to do our provide the kind of service that we want to. The same way with the real estate agent. I mean, you've done how long have you been doing real estate? And I think was it like 900 or 1,000 houses
it depends what stats I pull, because I pulled stats the other day for 330 million, but that's not what I thought. So, and we just merged with a new database, but I've been licensed since 2005. Been with a couple different brokers, you know, and actually got my associate broker's license. Was going to open up my own company. And it was funny, a building I actually called about, you know, to see what the rent was and everything, to think about, you know, putting a lease in, was already leased by the guy I'm working for now.
So, there you go.
It just kind of all worked itself out, and you know, it's a great fit, and I enjoy it. I enjoy real estate. It's not for everybody. You know, a lot of people maybe listening to this think it's, you know, easy, and I think that's a common misconception. You know, it's you got to be willing to work like 7 days a week, and right now where I am, been in, you know, since 2005, it does look a little easier. So some people see that and think, oh yeah, I can do that.
I mean, I've been at this since 1994, and I've been through a couple different, 3 or 4 different good markets and bad markets, and ups and downs, and dealing with, you know, pretty much every kind of person you can, and that's experience. I mean, that really helps you out in the fact that, you know, you can sit face to face with somebody and say, hey, I've seen this happen before, and this is. You know, you can't predict the future, but you can predict that, you know, I kind of been through it before and I have a little bit more confidence.
And this is exactly what we're going through right now. A lot of agents are calling it, what they're terming it is the shift. And where we are right now is we're past euphoria and we're right at the denial. You know, and I'll pull it up, I'll find it on my phone, but I can pull up this sheet, and it goes all the way down to the bottom and then comes all the way back up. But I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what we saw in the crash, only because the lending standards are so stringent, and they got a little relaxed, but they're still very strict. And with these appraisals in check, values haven't gone crazy. If we had what we had back in the good old days, in the Wild Wild West days, Hey, can you make that value? You can't. Hey, Judy, can you do it? It's like we could get anything done, but it doesn't work like that anymore.
I think I remember with my first house, we bought it for, I don't know, $300,000, and we went to get a home equity line of credit, and this was in like 2 years of buying it, and they gave us like $200,000 extra. I mean, with a drive-by appraisal. I mean, and this was in the early 2000s. I was like, I had no, really didn't mean a whole lot to me back then, because I'm like, oh, this is just the way it works. And now, like, you can't borrow a nickel without them crawling.
Oh, they're crawling everywhere. I just got one on my house just to have as an extra safety net. Just to have it there. You never know, things happen, and I wanted as much as I could get. But,
right.
Trying to beat them up for the appraised value. It just didn't go where I wanted, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So let's talk how your website. I know you've got a really good one. You're doing some local commercials here. You really are really good with this area and know a lot what's going on in the local market. So we'll list your website on the show notes. But go ahead and give a web address and how people get in touch with you.
Sure. It's isellmdhomes.com.
Okay. And they can go in there and do that if you're in the Baltimore area. Do that,
if you're in the Baltimore area, I basically serve about a 30-mile radius from Baltimore.
Okay.
So Anne Arundel, Howard, Seat Carroll, Baltimore, Hartford, Nashville General.
Yep. And if you're outside that area, we can find you.
I can certainly refer you to somebody. And that's actually something I tell people all the time, no matter where you are. If you don't know the questions they ask or you don't know how to find the right agent, all you gotta do is just go to my website, contact me. I have no problem screening an agent for you anywhere where you live. All I need is your zip code, areas you're looking, and I can do all the research for you and put you in touch with a top-notch agent as well. Good
enough. Well, there you have it. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, I love real estate. I've been buying rental properties for over 20 years, and I strongly believe in finding, I don't do it on my own, finding the professionals that can make my life easy and make that happen. So Mike's certainly one of those guys. So get in touch with him if you want. And thanks for listening to the show, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Mike.
And thanks for having me today, Colin. I really appreciate the invite.
Good job.
Thanks.